We can't be certain about what's going to happen for us or how we're going to feel in certain circumstances. In reality, I have to accept that I don't know how I'm going to feel until I do. All of these circumstances together, moment to moment to moment to moment, is what informs our full experience. Welcome to Lay It On Me, a space where we come together to explore all of life's moments. I'm Claire, and I'm here to listen, share what I can, and most of all, hold space for you. This is a place where you can lay down whatever is on your heart and be met with no judgment, just honesty, love, and connection. Whether it's something big or small, light or heavy, lay it on me, and let's see where we end up together. Hi everyone, happy springtime. I know that everyone listening is probably in a different place, but I know a lot of people in my life are in the Northeast or on the East Coast, and this sunshine that we have been getting, finally, sunshine and warmth, is making me so happy. I love springtime. My birthday's in spring, so there's no coincidence there. But I love springtime. Spring and fall have always been my favorite seasons. Honestly, I've always said because, I kind of like the transitional period, and that is only true for the seasons. Transitional periods of time in other aspects of life is stressful. But the spring and the fall, I just love sort of the in-between weather. It's not too hot, not too cold. Finally, we have been having some beautiful spring weather here in New York City. The flowers are blooming everywhere. The sun is shining. It's been like 65 to 70 degrees the past couple days. It's beautiful. I'm soaking it in. Now, starting by talking about the weather on this podcast seems pretty useless. If you catch me talking about the weather too much, it's probably because I am avoiding whatever I really want to talk about. And today we are going to be talking a lot about anxiety, and I'm honestly annoyed with myself a little bit that I keep saying, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm having this experience right when I'm recording this topic for the podcast. It seems fake. It's not. If you know me in real life, I know that you believe me, and I'm just very wary of the fact that this is now not once, not twice, not even 3 times probably. This is becoming a big pattern where I'm acknowledging, like, wow, I'm in the same headspace as what I'm talking about today. And I feel like when I really dove into episode 4, when I dove into grief and my feelings around that and how that's shown up for me a lot in my life, that was not what I had planned to talk about that day. And I talked about that on the episode itself, but I have been planning out the topics for this podcast as I'm planning out the schedule for filming and doing all of that, so that I can have time to, plug in ideas throughout the different weeks while I'm preparing for the topic. As ideas come to me, I'll put them in my little notes, or I'll reflect a bit about a certain question or topic and sort of have it a little bit planned out so that I'm very much speaking to what comes to me in the moment, but there are points that I want to hit along the way that have felt to me in preparation would be good examples or good stories or moments or what have you. So episode 4 really, is it actually episode 4? Oh, haha. Just kidding. Episode 3. But anyway, that episode, I really just tapped into what was present for me at that moment because it was so strong and it was just not really the headspace I was in, the feelings I was having, what I was being called to talk about wasn't allowing the space to talk about anything else. And so since then, I feel like I have truly been having the experience of being, for whatever reason, somehow so tapped into the topic that I'm talking about, even when it's planned in advance. So the reason I'm bringing up that pivot I made is because I made that pivot because that's just the topic that was present for me at that time, and that's what I felt like I really wanted to talk about. And I hadn't planned to talk about that topic at all. And it was something that I always imagined would come up on this podcast. I didn't imagine it would come up so soon, but I love to dive deep right away, so why not? It is a big part of why I am who I am, why I see things the way that I do. This topic of grief and growing with grief and experiencing that at such a young age and continually experiencing grief. It's a huge part of pretty much everything in my life. And so it made sense to me when it came up so soon, and that I just decided to dive into it in this space. So again, the reason why I'm talking about all of this is to say, when I made that pivot, I have now been having this strange experience of whatever topic I have pre-planned has somehow, for some reason, been so insanely present in my life. And I'm getting emotional right now because today's topic is really, really difficult, and I am sticking to it. I'm sticking to my schedule. I'm sticking to my plan to talk about this. And what I'm talking about today is anxiety. And I woke up this morning. Oh, shit. I woke up this morning with so much just base level anxiety for the day. If you know this experience, you know this experience. Sometimes it is that kind of experience where I'm just like, really? Like, really, this is the color for the day. Okay. Okay, I guess. So all of this is to say that I don't know what's going on with the way I'm planning these topics and the way that they keep making themselves so present and so potent in my life. And honestly, today, right now, I am really, really hoping that the more that I talk through this and I talk about this for this space, in this space, that I'll work through something and I'll be able to leave a little bit of this here and with all of us here to share. That is truly a point of creating this. And so I hope that that's something I can leave this recording session with, is that sense of having laid down a little bit of the load. And so here we go. Let's just dive on into anxiety for the day, shall we? So I am speaking about this today because a listener sent in the topic idea of talking about anxiety, ruminating, and overthinking, and how that shows up as a player in my life. You know, they were asking me for my perspective on this. I'm so grateful for these types of topic submissions as well. I want to say right now, like, please send them with love, because I guess I'm gonna be waking up with anxiety on the day I've decided to talk about anxiety. And so if that's gonna happen for all of these topics, I need to be careful. I'm just in this weird pattern with this podcast recording happening this way. So I don't know what's going on. And it's fine. And I think that you will all notice throughout this episode that I am very much living in this anxious energy right now, and I'm letting her live. We're gonna see how it all plays out. So yes, this topic being sent in means so much to me because it's hard to talk about, and I think it's hard to reach out about and hope that someone else can understand or relate, or maybe even offer anything useful. So thank you so much for sending this in and wanting to hear my view on all of this. I have a strong perspective on all of this. Anxiety is something that I experience so much, and a part of the extreme feelings of today is actually due to the fact that I haven't really felt this sense of like a morning baseline anxiety in a long time, and I'm really, really grateful for that. I have worked really, really hard for that, and I'm proud of myself. And days like this can still be really hard because it feels like, oh, God, I thought I was done with that. I thought I was done just waking up with anxiety. Like, it doesn't make sense. So it's hard. But I really do for myself. I find it really valuable to just be able to acknowledge that part of it, that it has been less frequent and it might feel more intense because of that. Even if it's not actually more intense, it can feel extra intense in the moment if it's become a little less familiar, which I am so grateful that if this anxiety has to feel more intense because it's less familiar, I will take it. I will deal with it. I will work through it. And that's really what I've been doing all day. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the tools that I have used for myself today if they come up. But I have a lot of notes and ideas about things I want to get into in terms of these topics. So anxiety, overthinking, ruminating, these all definitely go hand in hand. I don't think they're the same thing. I don't think anxiety always presents itself as like overthinking and ruminating, but it is very, very, very common for sure. So I think it is a good combo of things to talk about because definitely for me, they go hand in hand. Where I want to start, and I know I'm probably already like 10 or 15 minutes in. What time is it? Yeah, okay. I'm still in and I think I'm starting now. I don't know. Sorry. Thank you for being here, truly. Okay, where I want to start right now into really diving into this topic and less about me and my anxious day is this quote that I was just, of course, just came up for me yesterday, and I sent to a friend, and I was reflecting on this quote from Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act, A Way of Being. If you don't know the book, if you are creative, if you are a spiritual creative, if you are someone who wants to live a creative life and wants a powerful perspective on what that can look like and some ideas of how to do that, I cannot and will not ever stop recommending this book. It changed my life. I think about it almost daily, and I read it maybe 2 years ago, whenever it came out. Yeah, 2023. So it's really good, and the some quotes from it come up for me all the time, and one that came up yesterday, and I have this on my wall, so I do think about it pretty much every day whenever I see it. I have it on a little felt board in my kitchen. The quote is, "Your desire to create must be greater than your fear of it." And I really love this quote because it's not about not being afraid. It's actually about being afraid and desiring to create, or having this desire to create with fear along the way, but the desire can be bigger than the fear. And if it is, you can move forward and you can accomplish this creation, or you can dive into this state of creativity if your desire is greater than your fear. And I just really love this quote, and I brought it up to my friend yesterday because I was just really thinking about this idea of the fear can be huge. The fear can be so massive, and so can the desire. And if the fear is huge, but the desire is even bigger, okay, let's go, right? The fear doesn't have to be small. The fear doesn't have to go away. The fear can be there. It can be big. It can be strong. If you focus your attention on the desire, and if your desire is greater than that fear, oh my gosh, I just love this idea. And so this came up for me last night, and I've been reflecting on it a lot today, feeling anxious and afraid of recording today in this space and about this topic, and just really feeling a little bit stressed about how I was going to be able to tap into this. And just remembering that quote from that book really helped me just continually remember, like, it's okay that this fear is here. It's okay that this anxiety is here. And it's okay that they're big and they're strong, because my desire to do this is stronger and is bigger. And that is what I am going to be allowing to take control and be in the driver's seat of this process. And it's okay if the fear and the anxiety are there. Totally fine, because it doesn't mean that the desire is not. It doesn't mean anything else other than that they're there. And there isn't this exclusion between, like, if you're scared, then you must not want it. Like, no, if you're scared, you probably actually really, really, really want it. So this brings me now, all the way into one of my points that I wanted to talk about today. So I have been feeling pretty stressed lately, and I do believe that is a lot of where this anxiety for today is coming from. I've been really stressed and I've been really overwhelmed, and I've been feeling good all along the way as well, but I do think that, like, my brain and body is just a little bit like, whoa, what are we doing? And so my anxiety is getting a lot stronger and a lot louder, because my anxiety wants me to slow down. It wants me to make sure that I'm safe and make sure that I know what I'm getting myself into and that I have all these answers. And, like, the anxiety voice is very much this voice of, like, can you do this? I don't know. What do we need? What do we need to know? And this, and trying to just, like, swirl up all of the information, and then what do I do? I don't know. In this anxious space, there's not much there for me to work with. It's all always very, very cloudy. And so I know that a lot of this is coming up for me because I have been stressed and overwhelmed, but not necessarily in a bad way. I've been stressed and overwhelmed because I'm working on a lot of things right now. And I realized as I was editing last week that it could have come off as, like, a little tease, like, oh, I'm working on this new project and I'm overwhelmed and I'm doing so much, because then I didn't say anything about what that was. And just because it wasn't the point of that podcast, and I'm going to be sharing so many more details about so much that I'm working on. But for now, I will just leave it at the fact that I am learning how to produce. I'm learning how to produce. I'm learning how to produce a podcast, but I'm learning how to produce a show here in New York City. I'm working on producing a show and figuring out what that means and what that takes. And I'm doing it with a friend from college. We're also both going to be in it and performing. We're really just trying to create our own work in this city and in this industry. It's something that I think is extremely valuable, and it's really scary. And it's really stressful and it's really overwhelming, because I have no idea what I'm doing other than I know exactly what I want, and we know exactly what we want to create and why it's important and why it's going to succeed. We're so confident about this project, but what I'm learning is just all of the ins and outs, all the logistics, all the paperwork, all the contracts, all the finances, all of the producing side of doing a show in New York City. I have never done any of this work. I have been in a lot of shows and I have experienced a lot of these types of processes from a certain role within that process, and it's been on the other side of this, and it's really, really intimidating, but I love it so much. And I really hope by next week I'll be able to share total specifics, because we're making so much progress and things are lining up, and contracts are being signed soon, so yay. Okay, anyway, enough of that. I don't know. I'm anxious today, guys, okay? Holy crap, this podcast is gonna be so wild. Oh boy, I'm gonna really stick to my notes after this last little tangent, but I just realized while I was editing last week that I was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing, teasing about this new project? Not that I think anyone was really thinking that. Again, I'm in my anxious brain right now, but I just wanted to share a little bit more about that, because I am also so excited. And so the friend I shared the Rick Rubin quote with is my friend from college I am creating this show with. So, okay. Your desire to create must be greater than your fear of it. I am so scared. I am so scared of trying to produce this show. I am so terrified. And I'm also so excited and so confident that it's going to work and be everything that we want it to be. I know that it is. Things have been lining up so well. Things that are not in our control, that have just completely lined up perfectly. Things that we have chosen, sought out, asked for, decided. Things are happening and it's so exciting, and I am so terrified. I am so insanely terrified because I don't know what I'm doing. I will by the end of this, but I'm so scared also because I'm putting so much into this mentally and energetically and financially and so much. And so it's a really, really, really clear example of moving through something with this insanely huge and terrifying fear that I'm going to fail. I mean, I guess that's the fear. In the moment, I'm just scared because I feel like I don't have enough information. I never feel like I have enough information, and I'm just learning something new every hour. Every email I get about this project from wherever I'm getting it, every website I go to learn something new or to find an answer for something else. If I find an answer for one question I had, I'm also leaving that webpage with like 7 more unanswered questions. It's so daunting because I've just never done this before. So this is the most extreme example of me diving into something and just figuring it out as I go. And I'll see you on the other side, folks. But anyway, I really just wanted to use that as an example of, for one, I know where some of this anxiety is coming from. And so acknowledging that is really helpful, and it is a really good way for me to just move forward and move through the day with whatever level of anxiety I have, because I do understand where at least some of it is coming from. And so even if I can't control that, I can just say like, okay, I accept that I've been stressed and overwhelmed, and I'm probably anxious about whatever email I'm waiting for. I don't even know in the moment, it's not always really specific, this brand of anxiety that I have, but I can just accept that it's here, accept that I'm going to keep going and deal with it and feel it and just see how it all plays out. Now, okay, this is a good transition into talking a little bit more about overthinking and ruminating, because this state that I am in, being able to just move along with my anxiety and sort of like have this just reminder, okay, my fear can be big, but my desire can be bigger. Okay, like that right now in my life, I've been in a place where that is just what I need. I just need to remind myself, okay, this fear is okay, this anxiety is okay, this whatever is okay. I can just keep going and keep gathering information, right? If my fear is that I don't have enough information, then what I can really root into is just like being present and taking in the information that I have. Now, I did not used to operate this way at all. I did not. And I used to have so much anxiety all the time, daily basis. I would have anxiety attacks so often because I would just get so wrapped up in my head and I would just freak out. And so, hi, if anyone there is listening and can relate to that, I see you, I hear you, I am with you, and there's hope on the other side. Some days you'll wake up with anxiety and cry while you're eating breakfast for seemingly no reason, but it can get better. And so I am going to dive now into really talking about overthinking and ruminating, because I love to do that. I love to live there. I used to really just live in this headspace of just constantly ruminating over things. I used to actually get a level of like mental stimulation that felt like it was serving me from this pattern of overthinking and ruminating. Like, okay. So I babysit a 5-year-old boy, and he loves to just go over and over and over and over and over, like the same math equations, the same numbers, the same this, like a little bit of a routine. And he just goes through and he goes through and he does the lists and he does the big numbers and he does the equations. He finds a lot of comfort in it, I know, because he needs so much stimulation. And he does this mainly when we're just like walking home. Usually he'll be standing on his scooter and I pull him, and it's about a 15 or 20 minute walk. And so for him, that's a lot of time to keep his body still. He really is just in constant motion all the time. And that's where he gets a lot of the satisfaction for like the amount of stimulation that he needs, right? And so when he needs to keep his body still and when we're walking, he has, and I've encouraged this, I love this, that he does this because I think it works really well for him, is that he goes through these patterns of like reviewing his math, reviewing his numbers, reviewing all these things. And like he's 5, so I'm like, yeah, dude, keep practicing your math. You're going to be great. But the reason I bring that up is because in witnessing this, I see in myself this quality that I had where I at least was convincing myself that I was like getting this mental satisfaction from like thinking things through again and again and again and again. And to a degree, I was getting a level of mental stimulation that I guess I was craving, even subconsciously, but it was so unhealthy. It was so unhealthy, right? It's so healthy for this 5-year-old to be like practicing his math equations in his head while he's standing on his scooter. Like that's great, right? But it's not so healthy for a young adult who is anxious or overwhelmed or trying to find some level of satisfaction in my like daily sensation and stimulation. And that's a whole nother topic that I don't want to get lost in right now, but like acknowledging your own need for certain types of like stimulus, I think is a really beneficial thing for people to think about, especially if you're neurodivergent. Okay, I'm not going to get lost there right now. So I know that I am someone that gets a lot from working through things mentally and logistically. So this is actually why I really am loving this process of learning how to produce, because I love learning how all these logistics work. It's so scary and it's so intimidating because I don't know very much right now, but I love learning it because I love seeing how these things go together, and it's feeding this part of my brain that is sort of seeking that type of mental stimulation where it's like, wow, all of this new information, all of these new sort of, I don't even know how big the picture is until I see all the pieces, and then I can work on understanding how they all fit together. And so with something like this, it's feeding this part of my brain that I feel like was the part that was getting me stuck in this rumination and overthinking cycle, especially when I was in a really anxious state, because I would think through something over and over and over and over and over. And the difference between that and actually learning something and more information and learning how it fits together and adding more and learning more, that is a very expansive thing. And that is something that can really propel you forward in life and seeing things differently. But thinking through the same thing over and over and over and over again, for me, it would be this cycle of not only just like thinking through series of events, but really experiencing whatever these circumstances were while I was ruminating, while I was overthinking. And most of the time, whatever I was ruminating on was not a positive experience. And so it was just digging me further and further down into being more susceptible to myself to fall into this pattern of just over and over and over and over, because I was so convinced that that was my way out. Just thinking about this thing, whatever it was, this experience, again, usually a negative experience, thinking it through again and again and again and again. I wanted to get a sense of relief from doing that, because there is a part of my brain that gets a sense of relief from a certain level of mental stimulation in a way that I think makes sense, where if you think about it in terms of like you need a certain level of satisfaction, like if you're hungry, you need to eat enough to feel satisfied, to not feel hungry anymore. That then is relieving you of the feeling of hunger. So let's use that parallel to then say, if I'm anxious, what I thought was going to relieve me of that anxious feeling and provide clarity really relieves anxiety. Sorry. I thought that thinking through these anxious spirals and thinking my way out was going to bring this relief, and it just never would. It never will. That's really what I was searching for, and this is just coming up for me right now. I remember a quote from Jack Kornfield, one of my absolute favorite meditation teachers. I love him. He has a beautiful podcast, The Heart Wisdom Hour. It's recordings of his talks at different meditation centers that he teaches at. It's beautiful. It's beautiful if you like Buddhism, meditation, mindfulness. Anyway, a quote I wrote down once, listening to him as a guest on someone else's podcast, he said, "You can't think your way out. You have to feel your way out." And I remember hearing this at such a perfect time when I was just coming to terms with the fact that I hadn't really been feeling my feelings and, working through some of that in therapy. And I was like, oh man, this whole time I really wanted to believe that I could think my way out of these experiences. And I just can't. And so that's also why I've gotten to a place where with a day like today, what I need to move forward is to accept that the anxiety is there, accept that the fear is there, accept whatever it is there, and just continue to move forward and collect information as I go. Because if I just think too much about it, or about why it's happening, or what it is, or where it's coming from, or all of this, just if I try to think my way through all of that, then I just get lost or stuck, and that's not where the relief ever comes from. It really does just come from feeling it. And I think in terms of anxiety and fear, for me, acknowledging it is so much of the battle of actually feeling it. If I can acknowledge it and accept that it's there, then however it feels is fine. And for me, that is just a huge part of being able to move through these feelings, is first accepting them for what they are and accepting that they're there. I didn't used to do that. All right. So if you are working through trying to cope with your anxiety, my first recommendation would just be to try and find a little acceptance around the fact that it's there, and that's all you can do. And I think if you can practice that a little bit and just see how it feels, really, really, really working to accept. And even if it at first is just on a logic mind level of okay, I accept that this is here, but there's no maybe energetic acceptance about it, I think that that's fine. That's a good way to start, especially with something like anxiety that lives very much in the logistical brain. Just saying okay, you're here, I see you. I see anxiety. Okay, I'm anxious. And this morning, I just saying it out loud. I just turned to Ryan on the couch and I was like, I do not feel good today. And he was like, why? What's wrong? And I was like, I'm just really anxious. And he was like, about what? And I was like, I don't know. A million things? Nothing? I don't know. In that moment, on a day like today, that's just where I knew I had to start, is just say okay, this is what's happening. And then from there, it's kind of a little bit of a wash in terms of I'm not trying not to be anxious. It would be great if I felt less anxious right after saying that. And maybe to a degree I did after I cried a little. But, I then was I went to work, I was babysitting, and we were able to stay outside in the park for a few hours. And so I was just sitting there in the sun, and I really never felt like this baseline anxiety I woke up with had really ever subsided. But that was my experience for the day, and at least I got to sit outside in the sun, So anyway, starting with that acknowledgement and working towards that acceptance of, okay, this is a part of my experience right now. that does wonders for me, because then that allows me to find a little more clarity about then what to do next, or what to do with it, or how to cope, and what I need, and all of that. But all of that really has to start with the fact that you can just acknowledge and accept, okay, this is my experience. And then you get to decide from there. Another thing about overthinking and ruminating for me is that I think I was really in this space of wanting to find the quote unquote best or quote unquote right solution or piece of information or detail or whatever it was that I was really, really ruminating on. I think it was stemming from a fact, like that's what I was searching for, like the best solution, the right choice, the best outcome, whatever it might be. It was very much coming from a place of there is a good and bad way out of this. There's a right and wrong way out of this. And if I could just think of the right thing to do or the right thing to think, then I would be okay. But this different approach of just acknowledging anxiety for what it is and sort of allowing myself to discover how it feels is really where I think I've been able to let go a lot of the overthinking and ruminating side of this experience, because I'm really just more interested in how my body is feeling in that moment, and not working so hard in my brain to like find the right thing to do, but instead just tapping into how my body is feeling and focusing on that. And there's no right or wrong answer in terms of what my body needs. Whatever I am able to take in from my own experience, whatever I'm feeling, then that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to listen to my body, because in listening to my brain, I want to find the right answer, the best solution, the detail, and like that probably doesn't even exist. But what is very real is my body's sensations and how I'm feeling. And so that's just, I guess, another little tip of, if you're dealing with anxiety and overthinking, tune into your body and see if there's something that can help you just even for a moment, like take a break from a thought loop. If you're stuck in one, tap into your body for just a second, see if it needs anything, and that will at least break up your pattern if you haven't been doing something like that already. I also know a lot of my experience with ruminating and overthinking was this effort to explore every possibility before doing anything, or before feeling anything, or before taking any action of any kind, like in any sort of outward sense. But instead, I wanted to think through every possibility of everything. And so if I was ruminating on an experience I had, or maybe overthinking a decision, that's sort of where I would go in that space, is down every road of every possibility I could think of. And let me tell you, it's a lot. I would want to be able to find some answers within some of these possibilities I thought I was able to come up with and really think through. But in reality, you can't really think through any hypothetical possibilities to a degree that, at least for me, that you can then actually know what that experience would feel like. And that was a big breakthrough for me in sort of identifying my tendency to want to think my way out versus feel my way out. I wanted to think through all these possibilities, and in doing so, I would be at some level deciding how that was going to feel. And in reality, I don't have those answers. I don't know how I'm going to feel in certain circumstances until I do. And that is something that I come back to a lot when I am maybe talking down this anxious voice in my head. Is this anxious voice is scared that I'm going to feel scared, or nervous that I'm going to feel nervous, or concerned that I'm going to be concerned. Like, there is this weird thing where it's like I'm feeling the way I'm feeling because I'm scared that that's the way I'm going to be feeling. And so to get out of that, I have to remind myself, I don't know how I'm going to feel. I have to discover how I feel. There are certain things that I can do to take care of myself to ideally feel a certain way. But at the end of the day, I have to discover how I feel in the moment. And I don't know a truer statement about myself. I have to discover how I feel in the moment. And this is something that my anxious brain just does not want to accept at all, because my anxious brain wants to know how I'm going to feel and know that I'm going to feel good, I'm going to feel safe, I'm going to feel this, all whatever it is that I want to feel or this part of myself wants to protect. It wants that certainty that that's going to happen. And unfortunately, that is just not how anything works. And that's not how my feelings work. And I just don't think that that's how life works at all. I don't think any of us really think that, right? Like, we can't be certain about what's going to happen for us or how we're going to feel in certain circumstances, because that is all dependent on the moment and everything that surrounds that moment. Every circumstance we don't even know of, that I could never even ever think of within all these possibilities. And I thought, I'm thinking of all of this and I'm going to figure it out if I can just think about it enough. And in reality, I have to accept that I don't know how I'm going to feel until I do. And there's always so many circumstances surrounding every single moment that have nothing to do with us, but also do affect our experience, because all of these circumstances together, moment to moment to moment to moment, is what informs our full experience. And so, I am feeling like I want to wrap this up because I feel like I got to a good place. There's really just this sense of, when it comes to anxiety and ruminating and overthinking, if we can remind ourselves to tap into our body, if we're feeling lost in our logistical brain, or however you define these things for yourself, tapping into how our body feels versus what our mind is thinking, that is a really, really, really good thing to practice. And then if you experience anxiety, if you get stuck in overthinking, if you're ruminating on something, or catch yourself in any of these anxious thought loops or any types of experiences like this, I implore you to just acknowledge that for what it is and accept that it's happening. And if you really do that in the moment, you'll catch a whiff of something new. And you might not know what it is right now. It's taken me years to feel like I have even a sense of how this all plays out. A little bit of what that is for me is just this sense and this reminder that I'm in control of myself. My anxiety is not in control of me. My fear is not in control of me. My desire to create is not even in control of me. But I am in control of me, whatever that means. And this is one thing that I love to ruminate on is this sense of this distinction between I and me. If I am saying that I am in control of me, then what am I and what is me? And so maybe you can imagine where I might go with that based on what just happened there. But that's something I've gotten stuck in. And to not get stuck in that, I just accept that that's how I feel. And that's what I feel like I know. And in those tiny moments, even if they're so tiny, even if it's just a whiff of breaking up the pattern a tiny bit, quieting that anxious voice just a little bit by bringing in a new idea to that space, that experience of noticing that and being able to do that. Notice it back on yourself if you've brought a new idea into this anxious space that used to be this one thing, or into this rumination that feels like it's in this loop. If you bring a new idea in there, notice that you brought a new idea in there, because that is the part of yourself that's in control. And that's your confirmation that this other part of yourself that maybe you're feeling out of control of, or you're feeling like it is in control, this anxiety, overthinking, ruminating habits, whatever it might be, these things are really, really difficult to experience and to deal with and to live with. And so if you can just practice to just wedge in a tiny new idea, a tiny new thought, just a breath of fresh air. And then when you do that, that is your confirmation of what you know. All these times you're trying to fight your anxiety or cope with your anxiety or whatever it might be, the more that you can just notice that you are able to bring this new idea or have this new thought within this, anxious thought spiral, that is the real evidence, I believe, that those parts of ourselves are just parts of ourselves. They're not our whole self. They're not what's in charge. They're not what's in control if that's not what we want to decide. And being able to just find the tiniest little amount of space within that experience and to see it just a little bit differently, or maybe not even see it differently yet, but just experience it a little bit differently. Just if you're out there and if you try this and if any of this comes up for you, just allow yourself to notice that that's what you did, and allow yourself to really, really sit with the fact that even if it's so tiny, it's different. And that means you're doing something different. And that means that you're bringing in new ideas to these anxious spirals. And that means that these anxious spirals are not in control of you. And that you can learn to control them in a new way. You can learn to live with it in a new way. And ideally, hopefully, eventually lessen the overall experience of it. And so I'm really just gonna, this is an abrupt end, I fear. If you are listening to this whole episode, thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is hard. And I'm glad that I'm trying to do it. I'm anxious about how it's gonna turn out. So that's that. But yeah, I'm just gonna end with this last idea of just try and breathe some fresh air into these experiences for yourself. And when you do, because you will, you already are, if anyone out there experiences these things and is listening to a podcast like this, you're already doing it. You're already working on understanding these parts of yourselves a little bit more and how you want to manage them or move through them or whatever it is that you are trying to do. You're doing it, and acknowledge that for yourself. And in those moments, if you can just breathe a little bit of fresh air, do that as much as you can, and don't forget to acknowledge yourself for doing that, because that's where you can then grow your power in yourself, grow the trust in yourself that you are in control, not this anxious voice, not this idea, not this whatever it is that you don't want to be in control. It's not. You are. And so not only trying to do that in the moment, but also reflecting and giving yourself the props that you deserve for doing that. And the more that you can do that, the stronger that part of yourself is going to get, and the weaker that your anxiety is going to get. And I really, really believe this, because these are some things that have really helped me. And when it comes to anxiety, like, there's a lot of tangible tools that can be really useful. And I said at the beginning I would touch on some of that I did today. I really didn't. I mean, some things that help me are like meditation, not having too much caffeine, making sure I eat enough food, eat enough water, eat enough food, drink enough water. Like, those are some just tools. It's just like, okay, take care of my body, right? So anyway, but those are, there's so many options, and it's so hard to know what you need, and it's so hard to have what you need in the moment if it's like a tangible tool or a thing you want to do or a thing you have or whatever. Like, sometimes those types of tools aren't always accessible in the moment, but these mental tools, these mental exercises, I don't like that phrase, mental exercises, these mental tools and more internal ways of working through these feelings, if you don't have space for any physical ones. Like when it comes to anxiety, moving my body is very, very, very helpful for me to just move through that energy. But again, not all of these things are available to us in every moment. And so this exercise or practice, really, that's a better word, of just breathing some fresh air into this experience for yourself in the moment, and acknowledging yourself for it also after the fact from that moment, that you always have access to that. And you always, if you think you have a chance to do that, that's your chance, right? If you have this idea, you already did it. That's really what it is. Like if you would just have a new idea in this in an anxious experience, you don't even have to realize it in the moment, but hopefully you can look back and go, oh my gosh, I had a new idea in this anxious spiral that used to always feel the same, but I just had a new idea. And you don't even have to know what that means, but just know that the fact that that happened means things are changing and means you are getting stronger and better at dealing or managing or coping with your anxiety or whatever your goals are surrounding that. Things are changing, and recognize yourself for that if you are doing the work. The work works, and it works to recognize the work that you're doing. It really, really, really works. Celebrate yourself as much as possible. Acknowledge yourself for the effort that you put into yourself. Yeah, acknowledge yourself for that. Celebrate yourself for that. It's really, really valuable. And if you need a celebration for yourself, if that's hard for you to do, you know where to find me. I would love to celebrate you. Especially if you listen to this podcast. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. That was an abrupt ending that probably took 5 whole minutes. But here we are, folks, at the end of episode 6. Thank you so much for being here. This is an interesting one. Thank you for coming along the ride. I love you so much. And as always, take care of yourself. And whatever you're carrying, you don't have to carry it alone. Lay it on me. Bye. Oh, goodness. Are you recording? Please be recording. If you're not, this is an audio-only episode. That I showered for. We'll see. Okay. We're done.